that concludes the formal portion of our panel up here today. However, I know that there are some mics in the audience, and the panel has agreed to take some questions at this point in time. I've got a number of them up here, but I know they're probably more interested in hearing from you, the audience, and asking some questions from there. So do we have any questions at this point in time, or should I get them started with one? Okay, it looks like, oh, Alice, you got one to go. Do you have a mic, though? Come on up here, then. Come on. Alice Wong, everybody.
I just have a question about how do you actually engage employers? I know that two of you are the converted ones, and you have been well known in the settlement communities. You've done a lot of great work, but there are other employers who are out there who may not know about this expert group of people here. So any advice for us who are looking at employer engagement?
I'm sure Chris has some thoughts.
Go ahead.
But I'll jump in and he can add to it. We are a strange bunch, I will admit that. We like to hide in our offices and avoid issues. No. It's really about building relationships, and I actually think that's a huge opportunity for this group. I think about 2004, if I remember correctly. Where's Fairbours? Fairbours, you here? 2004, I don't know why he did it, but he picked up the phone and phoned Safeway and said, hey, we got an event for you to come out to. We came, and we learned about what certainly CCIS is all about, learned about some of the challenges that immigrant serving agencies have, and that was really the start of the relationship. So it's all about building relationships, and as simple as a phone call, or better yet, all of you have networks of employers probably. Why don't you go to the people that are in your network and say, hey, look, you guys that are employers, can you get other employers to the table? I'll bet you if you were to ask Chris and I to say, hey, how do we get more employers? We'd probably say, how many do you want? Because I probably am connected to 50 or 60 employers. Chris, you're probably connected to more. So it's about leveraging the network that you already have and making it bigger.
I think part of it is as well is the idea of really working with on a consolidated effort. One of the things that you see a little bit of is from the employer standpoint, when you talk to a lot of the other employers besides Bill and I, it's that they feel that they're being inundated by a lot of different sectors, and whether it's the immigrant serving sectors, the Aboriginal sectors, the disabled sectors, and they constantly get these messages. The nice thing would be is a coordinated effort. The idea of almost like a reverse job fair, where it's the agencies that are there, where the employers can come and meet the agencies and do those connected pieces with them. That's where I think that we could see a lot of the advantages, because as Bill said, there's a lot of employers out there who don't know what they don't know. They don't know all the great services that are out there and all the great opportunities and a great way to make connections. And so it's one of those things that if you do enlist the networks and really try to push that, we'll probably get more people at the table to kind of be there and build off of those successes.
Here's one other idea for you. I'll throw it back on the table. I mentioned it briefly. 2006, the federal and provincial governments held a Workforce Connects event where they brought Aboriginal employment agencies and employers together for a conference. And it was a great event, a chance to explore the relationships, what each side can offer, some of the barriers and challenges each side faced. Why hasn't that happened with immigrant serving agencies? And is there an opportunity for the province and for the federal governments, along with this group of people, to do the same thing for employers? I bet you'd find it a pretty powerful kind of an event. And this is all about supply and demand, simple economics. The more employers that understand the value that you bring to the table, and they don't have to rely on temporary foreign worker programs because you guys are already connected to the immigrant serving or to immigrants. If they actually understood that, that would actually help put pressure on the province and the feds to actually provide more funding for you. I would think. I'm going to suggest you probably should have had, and I'm glad Safeway's here and Sobeys and Tim Hortons, but I'll bet you if we would have had a few, five large oil companies at this table, that would certainly add credence to the fact that this group matters and that the future for this province is all about immigration along with the Aboriginal community and everybody else. and you get some some employers at the table, the province and the feds will listen.
That's good. Excellent. Questions from the crowd? We've got mics out there now. Somebody's got to put up their hand. Come on. If you don't ask questions, you know John's coming up here even faster, so. Question up here. Oh, the mic right behind you. There you go.
I don't have a question, but I would like to say thank you to Dale. Thank you to Dale and people that are from different, I don't like this one. You can hear me, I have a lot.
People on the webinar can't,
Yeah. You need the mic. Yeah.
So I would like to say thank you for your speech, and you made me cry easily, because the reason that I'm saying is I can be the people that can be identified as terrorists, and although I'm not having the hijab, but I would like to say thank you for you and all the government and everybody, that I'm kind to say that I'm so proud to be Canadian because of people like you.
There we go. Other questions? Oh, way at the back. Way at the back. I don't know if you can hear that or see that on the webinar, but he's way in the back. So.
I hope they are translation. I am going to speak in French. Merci Jean pour l'intervention. Et puis, c'est pas une question, mais c'est un commentaire. C'est par rapport à l'immigration francophone. C'est que souvent, quand on parle de ça, on pense que c'est les droits linguistiques seulement. Mais je voulais dire que par rapport aux autres langues, en dehors du Québec, au Canada, en français, il y a les communautés francophones en situation minoritaire qui sont établies, qui ont des écoles, qui ont des centres de santé communautaires, qui ont d'autres services avec des associations comme lesquelles nous travaillons avec. Donc, il y a beaucoup de ressources qui sont méconnues, qui devraient aider à intégrer ces immigrants. Donc, pour le gouvernement, à tous les niveaux provinciaux et puis aussi fédéral, c'est qu'il y a une valeur ajoutée qui n'est pas exploitée à ce niveau jusqu'à présent. Donc, c'est dire que s'il y avait un investissement dans ces communautés, le retour d'investissement serait plus grand que ce qu'on pense. Donc, c'est une recommandation juste que je donne à soit CIC, mais aussi les niveaux de gouvernement en Alberta qui s'occupent de l'immigration, de se pencher à ce niveau. Et je viens de Calgary. Je sais qu'aujourd'hui, il n'y a pas de financement en immigration pour les organisations francophones à ce niveau-là. Et ça nous reste toujours un peu amer. Merci.
Thank you very much. John, would you like to take that?
I would. Not sure which language. I'll do a little bit in both. Merci Esdras, tu as tout à fait raison. La communauté francophone s'investit davantage au sein de la société civile. So the investment of the Francophone community is really mainstream. We want to make a difference together with our partners. Et we need to be better known. We need to do a better job communicating. Parce que la ressource fondamentale que nous apportons à la société civile albertaine, elle est incontournable. Et lorsqu'on regarde les recensements récents au niveau des nombres, la croissance de la francophonie, de la population, en grande partie grâce à la migration, l'immigration primaire et secondaire en Alberta, c'est absolument phénoménal. Et nous faisons essentiellement miroir à la société civile albertaine. Alors, nous avons des ressources et qu'on voudrait les mettre à profit de ces gens. Et pour moi, c'est la dignité de la personne qui doit primer dans tout ce que nous faisons. So the focus has to be on the citizen and not the desires and objectives and goals of the agencies that we represent. We need to do what's best for the citizens that want to move to this province. I was born and raised in Alberta, in the Peace River country, and I got to tell you, I'm really proud to be a Francophone. And I'm really proud of the contribution that we do to civil society in Alberta, and I will never be the one who will say, excuse my French. Merci, Islas.
Marie-Laure, ok. Marie-Laure Polidor du CDEA. Je voudrais apporter un point supplémentaire à ce que M. Jean Johnson a demandé par rapport à une entente entre le Québec et l'Alberta pour les professionnels. Étant responsable du recrutement à l'international et particulièrement en Europe, j'aimerais profiter de la présence du gouvernement de l'Alberta pour que le gouvernement ait des ententes comme le Québec a fait avec la France, avec les ordres professionnels français. Donc, on a beaucoup de professionnels français qui viennent ici pour travailler, et je dois vous dire que l'Alberta, c'est un rêve pour un Français. Donc, s'il pouvait y avoir des ententes signées avec ces ordres-là pour avoir la reconnaissance des acquis des professionnels français, ce serait fortement apprécié. Merci.
Supplement, quick. Merci, Marina. Excellente question. If we listen to what Jim Prentice said recently about the desire for Alberta to sign an agreement similar to what Quebec signed in 1992, it will address a lot of the questions you've raised. And I would totally endorse and support the efforts of our Premier in that sense. I think also he has a vision for la francophonie in Alberta in his international and national plan and looking at the labor force. Alors, merci Marie-Laure, je pense que tu as tout à fait raison. Il y a des éléments importants que tu apportes, puis une entente du genre nous permet d'avoir un dialogue cohérent non seulement avec le fédéral, mais aussi avec notre gouvernement albertain.
Thank you. Question.
Je m'appelle Mamadi Kamara, je suis le directeur du Centre d'accueil nouveaux arrivants francophones à Calgary. J'ai une question pour le monsieur qui a exposé sur la vision de Safeway pour les immigrants. La question est de savoir quelles sont les opportunités qui existent à Safeway pour les immigrants francophones.
Great question, and I'm not going to challenge my university French to try and answer your question. It's an interesting thought. I guess Safeway is primarily in the West, and we have actually tried recruiting from Eastern Canada, a variety of places, including Quebec. Maybe it's the approach we took. Maybe there was a different way we could have messaged it. But it's probably an opportunity for companies, including Safeway, to take a more serious look at Eastern Canada and ways that we can look to draw future employees to the West. I mean, I don't have a real good answer to your question. I know that Sobeys exists across Canada. Sobeys has a very large presence in Quebec, and in fact, there's 350 stores that are in Quebec, and certainly the Sobeys organization is very prominent in Eastern Canada as well. So it's an opportunity, I think, for all of us. A great question. Sorry I couldn't say it in French.
There we go.
Good thing I listened, though, that I heard your
Exactly.
translated
Right.
question.
We've got time for one more question. I just wanted to throw this out to the entire panel. One of the things that's come up, and we've heard it from various presentations today, I guess the difference between Calgary and Edmonton and how well supported they are versus some of the other rural locations across Alberta. We know that a lot of the economic growth and a lot of the economic drive within Alberta right now is coming out of the centers besides Calgary and Edmonton. How do you feel that this is going to impact the services that the settlement agencies provide over the next few years? Dorte, do you want to maybe start with that, thinking about it from the language point of view and what is available outside of Calgary and Edmonton, or what isn't available outside of Calgary and Edmonton? Might be a better answer or better question.
I'm not the best speaker on what's available outside Edmonton and Calgary because the MacEwan program isn't there. You know, I know a little bit about what Norquest, for example, is doing. So there's the Rural Roots project. There's there's online provision, and there's well, there are other people in this room who can speak better to what Norquest is providing. For example, in the region, the northern region that they're stewards of. I think that one of the issues is that when you're looking at especially very small communities, you can't really get enough people together to have, for example, a full level class, and you can't have full time sort of thing because there's just aren't the numbers there. So you have to get inventive, and some of those innovations are happening already. So, for example, online delivery, blended delivery, tutoring, home study. I don't know. Is Sally here still? She can talk about home study? Okay, all right, link home study. But I think that really what has to happen is that we have to continue with those innovations and just spread them more widely because, frankly, it's not. We can't replicate the system that's present in Edmonton and Calgary.
Exactly.
Even Red Deer is having difficulty.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. And Dale, any thoughts of that for the rest of the settlement services and how you have to build off the stuff that Dorte just mentioned?
Well, there's services in many small communities and not all of them. I guess getting back to my other main theme, there are people who want to live in inclusive communities that still might be presently very homogenous communities. So the challenges are different in a more homogenous community, but I think there's been a range of welcome. I mean, I'm just thinking of the sponsorship phenomenon, where when church-based sponsorship in particular was widespread across the province, and it didn't matter how big or small your town was. But then the opportunities to stay and thrive and be connected in smaller communities are more restricted.
There we go. Sounds good. Thank you very much. And with that, wanted to thank the panel.
I've done this for a very long time, and I have to say, never in my career has my kind of conception of what our panelists would address and what I listened to varied quite as much as it did this afternoon. It was all very interesting, but there's a couple of key points we really need to make in terms of the nature of this exercise. What we had conceptualized was what I would call the wagon wheel diagram of Faribor's presentation, looking at the different sectors involved in a settlement system and how there's interplay among them. We've had representatives on the panel from those different sectors, and I think you can pull bits and pieces out of there that did exactly that, and there was much richer than that. There was quite a bit more information and different perspectives brought to the table. But we do want you to think over the next couple of days, and I challenge all of you as well as the panelists, one of the easiest temptations in the world is to say it'd be really great if somebody else did this. That is not the exercise that we're engaged in because, quite frankly, to engage employers, we need employers. And we need them to be in different environments than this. We had a very active conversation in the planning of this event of who needed to be in the room. And what we settled on was this was not a proselytizing event where we're going out to try to get more players into settlement. What we really needed to do was get the main players who already understand the game in settlements to come together to help us figure out what are some of those difficult trade-offs we need to make so that we're all energized and can go out and continue to build those partnerships that we heard from the previous panel as being so central to the work that we do. So each and every one of us needs to be that network multiplier when we leave this event, and hopefully we learn tricks of the trade from one another. Another thing that I have to address, because I know my entire settlement team in Calgary is watching, plus my entire settlement team in Edmonton is here. They just spent their entire summer making 50 amendments to contribution agreements and putting an additional $4 million into language training to address the backlogs and the seats that we needed to fill across Alberta. I can't help but feel that they must feel the wind completely out of their sails to have heard that the language training system in Alberta is dysfunctional and does not work in any way. I don't think that's a fair representation of the language system in Alberta today. Surely there are challenges, to be sure, but I think that we need to recognize there is a tremendous amount of work out there that we need to look at and be aware of when we go into our discussions tomorrow. To that end, there is a presentation hanging on ACE's website that was recently presented at the ATESL conference that did a very good job, I think, of capturing what does the language system in Alberta look like today and why, which is quite a complex system involving hundreds, if not thousands, of players. And I think we need to have a look at that before we move into a session tomorrow where we have 8 working groups talking about language. So 2 messages I want to leave you with. Partnerships are everybody's business, and we really need to walk away from this with a sense of ownership. It is each and every one of our jobs to make sure that this settlement system works best, and figuring out what is our niche, what is our unique advantage and place in that system if we're going to design something that works truly effectively. So, as I said, I thought that we learned a great deal more than we had originally conceptualized in this session. I'd ask you to join me in thanking our panelists for stretching our brains. And we have 10 minutes for coffee before we return for the final plenary of the day on research data ownership. Thank you.